Hey everybody, Jace here. Just want to remind you that on every one of these 12 days of the Comic Source videos, you can win 1 month free of Global Comix. And on Christmas Day, we'll be giving away a free year of Global Comix. All you have to do to enter is just go over to the YouTube channel and leave a comment on any particular episode that you've checked out. If you listen to it audio only, again, just head over to YouTube, do a search for the Comic Source. Leave a comment, and everybody who enters a comment for a particular video, I will select at random a person for that video to win the code to get a month of free Global Comix, which is the premier destination for digital comics. Got the best user interface I've ever seen for digital comics. You can read comics on your phone. Over 375,000 comics so far in the library. It's growing daily, so it doesn't cost you a thing to check it out. Again, just leave a comment on the YouTube video for any of the 12 days of the Comic Source YouTube videos, and you'll be entered to win. So hope everybody's having a really fun and enjoyable holiday season, and thanks for joining us for these 12 days of the Comic Source episodes. Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of the Comic Source. This is another 12 days of the Comic Source episode, something a little different for you today. I just wanted to preview for you guys something that we have coming up next year. We're going to be covering a lot more of the Ghost Machine stuff on the channel, so if you've been listening to our indie spotlights or some of our interviews, you know we had the writer Maytal Zichet on talk about her property, which is in the Hyde Street corner of Ghost Machine. But we're going to have, like I said, a lot more Ghost Machine content coming in 2025, hopefully used with other creators as well. Hoping to have Jeff Johns on, Jason Fabic, Brian Hitch, just a bunch of the Ghost Machine creators. Hopefully we're going to have them on. But in the meantime, if you haven't been caught up with Ghost Machine, if you haven't been looking at our indie spotlights or watching them and hearing about Ghost Machine and all the fantastic titles, we're actually going to start doing some deep dives on some of the books, starting with the very first Ghost Machine book, which goes back to when it was actually called Bad Ghost, when it first came out, which was kind of weird. So that's going to be coming, like I said, in 2025. We're going to do some breakdowns, starting with the first series, Geiger. We're going to go issue by issue, kind of page by page, talk about what they happen. On each page, talk about what we think they mean and that sort of thing, just breaking them all down. So as a little sneak peek, myself and my co-host for the Ghost Machine content, Cody, are going to break down the very first issue of Geiger from back in 2021. That's what this episode's going to be. Now, when we get ready to re-release these deep dives into the Geiger series, I'll re-release this again without this intro. So if you want to hold off and wait, we totally get it. You know, you want it to become a regular basis. We understand, because it's probably going to be a little while. Hopefully by the spring, we'll have enough sort of built up and in the can that we can start releasing them on a regular basis. But yeah, look for a lot more Ghost Machine content coming in 2025, not just from Ghost Machine themselves, but from the Comic Source covering them. And I hope everybody's having a really healthy and happy holiday season. Don't forget to leave comments below to have a chance to win the Global Comix monthly subscription. You can win a free month of Global Comix, which is the premier destination for Global Comix. For digital comics right now. It's the best platform, the best user interface. You can read comics on your phone. It's just really fantastic. They have a library that's constantly growing, so look for that. Don't forget on Christmas, the Christmas episode, which will be an interview with Tom King, that you can win a whole year of Global Comix. So if that's your jam, if you really love Global Comix, if you love checking out digital comics, that's what you're going to want to do to tune into that episode to have a chance to win that. As far as being announced as a winner, so I want to give people a chance. If they don't watch everything on the day that it's released, I want to give everybody a chance to comment and a chance to win. So the way it's going to work is I'm going to announce all the winners for all the episodes. So every episode, 12 Days of the Comic Source, 12 people, or I should say 11 people, are going to win a 30-day free subscription to Global Comix. And then on Christmas Day, it's going to be a year. So 12 winners total, 11 30-day, and 1 365-day. And they're all going to be announced on a special New Year's Day episodes. And I'll also, reply to the comment that gets selected. I'm randomly select from all the comments on each episode. I'll reply and let you know, hey, you won, and you can shoot me an email, and I'll send you your code. So everything is going to be announced on New Year's Day. Not going to expire or anything like that. So whenever you reach out, that's when you can get your code and be able to start your Global Comix experience. So anyway, I hope everybody enjoys this deep dive into Geiger #1 from 2021, written by Jeff Johns, fantastic art by Gary Frank. Again, look for more Ghost Machine comment come 2025. Hope everyone is having a really wonderful holiday season, and talk to you on the next one. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Comic Source. I'm your host, Jace, joined by my friend Cody. Cody, welcome to the show. First time having you on.
Hey, folks. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
So Cody's a fellow Bad Idea Fan Cup participant. One of my favorite people that I met while participating in the Fan Cup. For those that don't know, that are here because they're Ghost Machine fans, Cody and I are both huge Bad Idea fans. We put out incredible books. We had this contest a few years ago to see who could, I don't know, how would you put it, Cody? See who could humiliate themselves the most or the worst?
Yeah, see who could put themselves through the most pain and anguish as they reach for the Bad Idea Cup. Yeah, it was a good time. I can't believe it was already that long ago, too.
Yeah, it was funny. At New York Comic Con this last year at the Bad Idea panel, the first two questions, my question, I was second in line, my question and the question of the person in front of me both had to do with the Fan Cup. And then really? She's like, all these what great announcements were announced here at New York, and the first two questions are about Fan Cup. I just want to know that's not happening, so I don't have to humiliate myself.
Yeah, is that what they said? Or what did they say?
No, they said that he said he was going to bring it back, but I mean, who knows? It was a lot of work on their end, too. But anyway, everybody's like, which could you start talking about Ghost Machine already?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought of Cody when I wanted to do this, because I know he's a huge fan of Jeff Johns and a lot of the stuff that Jeff does. Obviously, I went to the Ghost Machine panel at New York. We've talked about some Ghost Machine books on our Indie Spotlight that comes out every Wednesday, but we wanted to have a dedicated show basically that goes through these Ghost Machine books. Cody has not experienced them previous to checking these out, so I thought he would be a good person to come on since I've read them multiple times, and we're basically going to give our perspective. Now, there's going to be spoilers. There's going to be plenty of spoilers here, everybody, because we're going to break these books down page by page. However, you still need to go out and buy these books. I'm not going to put up on the screen with all the words and dialogue and everything, so you're still going to need to go out and buy them. But we're going to start at the very beginning of Ghost Machine, which at the time was actually called Mad Ghost when it first started, with Geiger by Jeff Johns, with art by Gary Frank. And so this is the first book that we're going to talk about, starting with issue 1, basically the first, I guess you'd say, retroactive Ghost Machine. Again, it was Mad Ghost at the time, but it's certainly now under the umbrella of Ghost Machine, the Image imprint that Jeff Johns co-owns with a bunch of other talented creators over at Image. So before we get started and dive into issue 1, let me just ask you overall, Cody, how far have you read?
I've only gone to issue 2. That's
first 2 issues. Okay, which is what we're going to cover, everybody. But we're going to split them up into separate episodes. So check out the other episode. Will probably come out in a few more days for issue 2. But as a follow up, like, what are your initial impressions of Ghost Machine and of this world, this universe that Jeff and his friends are creating?
I was really excited when you asked me to jump on it, because when I see Jeff Johns and Gary Frank's name on a book and it's finished, it's complete, it's something available that anybody can go buy right now. Of course, I'm thrilled. I loved their work in Doomsday. That had me just for 2 years, kind of always on the edge of my seat, waiting for the next issue to come out. I know that they've both done incredible things. Jeff Johns is involved in all sorts of different projects, whether it's film or writing, and Gary Frank just can create the likeness of Watchmen and stuff that is otherworldly. So really, really, excited to hear about this post-apocalyptic world that they're building, and going into it blind is super fun. It's really exciting.
Yeah, there's probably going to be a few spoilers for you. I'm going to try not to. I'm going to try to just talk about what I'm seeing on the page in front of me. But that's the other part of this, everybody. It is a shared universe. There are other characters that show up eventually. This idea of the unnamed, which is sort of this mysterious superhero group that we're going to learn more about as it unfolds. So for anybody who's jumping on or hasn't had a chance to read it yet, you have a big chunk of story to check out. But to Cody's point about stuff already coming out and how long Doomsday Clock took to come out, and that's the thing. Like with the quality of art and story they put out, these books don't come out on a monthly basis. So that is the one thing. Like at New York Comic Con, they were teasing all this stuff to come, and it's like, man, I want it now. But yeah, the books aren't necessarily monthly. Some books think about it as like maybe 10 a year. Other books like Rook, think of it like in season. Like you're going to get 6 issues that are going to come out probably like 6 consecutive months, but then you're going to have like 4 or 5 months with nothing. And then they're going to come back with another 6 and so on and so forth. More of a seasonal model. Again, I mean, so much detail in the art and it all takes time. So that being said, we're going to dive into the first issue here. This is the regular cover for issue 1. Obviously, you can see in the foreground, there's a guy standing there. He has somewhat of a cloak, and in the background, there's this nuclear explosion. And you can certainly, by the name, think, okay, well, this is going to have to do with, nuclear war and, radioactive things. And yeah, you're not wrong. And obviously, the mushroom cloud in the background with the kind of the top of the skull, very impactful cover from Gary Frank. Any thoughts on the cover, Cody?
I remember when I first saw it pop up in comic book shops a while ago now, and it caught my eye. I had one, threw it in my checkout, and I think I sold that a lot of books before I left Los Angeles, but it caught my eye right away when I first the silhouette with the mushroom cloud. Yeah, it's kind of iconic. And then with the name, the title, just the whole aesthetic of the cover, I really feel a pull to, for sure. Kind of makes me want to jump into a video game. If it was presented on PlayStation format, I'd be like, let's see the trailer for that game. See what's going on in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I will admit to having maybe more of an affinity for post-apocalyptic when I was younger. I feel like it is a genre that's been explored a lot more probably in the last 20 years than the 20 years prior to that. But I mean, it's always been sort of a science fiction trope. But anyway, let's check out the inside here. Again, as you can see in the middle, it says Mad Ghost. That's what the company was first branded as. So Geoff Johns and Gary Frank are credited as creators here, rather than one as writer and one as artist. Obviously, Jeff's handling the writing and Gary's handling the... I should say Jeff's handling the scripting. He's putting the dialogue in, he's putting the words. Gary's handling the art. But they're both plotting this story out. They're talking story, they're talking where it goes and what. Brad Anderson is on colors, Rob Lee's on letters. And so as we turn to the first page, we're actually a bit even farther along in the future, if you will. We see a couple of guys here, kind of a young African-American boy who's curious. He's asking questions. The older kind of grizzled guy with the eye patch. And he's talking, they're checking radiation levels, and they're talking about it's a breeding ground for all kind of nasties. I mean, you can imagine the mutations that happen because
just a little bit of lore, to kind of start to get you immersed in the atmosphere of it. I do like this little myth, kind of just addressing a myth within this apocalyptic future that they're setting us up in.
It's almost a framework type story, and what it allows Johns to do is give us a POV character, right? Like this young African American boy is asking the old grizzled guy who's been around the block, like, I'm curious about the rumors or the truth about the man, the one that walks outside without a suit. After the unknown war started, and he's out there flickering on the horizon like a candle, like all this great imagery that Johns is creating, along with giving him almost like a boxer, right? Like I think of Apollo Creed in the Rocky movies, where he has like 1,000 nicknames. He's like, he's Joe Glow, he's the man of mass destruction, he's the walking bomb, the meltdown man. Like, they give him all these euphemisms for who Geiger was. But again, it allows the story to unfold for us as this older guy is telling the younger guy, again, our POV character. Yeah, so who is Geiger? So interesting framework. And I'm sure whenever we have Jeff on finally to talk about this, I'm going to ask him about that. Like, what is it about this type of framework? Were you just not sure where to start? Why did you dive in this way? And right away,
such a good question.
Yeah,
it's very smart.
Yeah, and right away the Gary Frank art, super detailed, really fantastic. So, actually, thing here, I realized that this is supposed to be acted.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
So give me 1 second, everybody, because I want to be sure that we're showing you the right thing. Again, we want you to go out and pick up the books. So, apologies, but I want to show you.
Well, we have a second. You can get $1. You can pick up for just $1 in your local comic book shop. Found this for $1. You can get the deluxe hardcover edition out there available for not that much money. You can get it online. You can get it in all sorts of various different ways. It's available. I was surprised by how available after I know I haven't read too much of it yet, but I was all kind of just looking up all the books. And those image invested.
Those image first edition specials are always only $1. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So give me 1 more second. We'll be on the go, everybody. All right. So now you should all see correct format here. Let me just fix the borders. So you got a sneak peek of that first page with all the words. So hopefully that got you all super excited to check out the book. But yeah, going forward, you'll have to pick it up on your own. All right. So give me 1 second. All right, so on to the next page, which, again, I can't show you exactly. Obviously, there's a double-page spread here, and, it's going to look better when you pick up the book yourself. But it basically, so with that framing model, and then we immediately, and with all those, like I said, those euphemisms that were given to Geiger, and then all of a sudden, you go from that to this, huge crater, and again, a great job by Jeff Johns to give, some hints. Well, who's this guy they're talking about with all these thousands of nicknames? And then it pulls way back, and you've got this giant crater, and you're thinking, wait, some guy caused this? Like,
you don't even, it's I don't even know. It's an incredible shot. From the end at the beginning of the book, it's just, that this has to be there intentionally. It's purposeful. There's a correlation between this and probably the character they're talking about. It's just this, it is a mind blowing thought to think that a guy could have caused that. I go on, just keep going.
Yeah.
It sets up, this page sets up perfectly though with the dialogue that isn't there, but it goes, it kind of goes into this morality and good and bad and family, and it's one of the core concepts and pieces of it all too. So there's something that just feels like it's the Big Bang image to me.
And not that I have firsthand knowledge of how big a nuclear bomb crater is, but like I wouldn't think it would be this big. I guess depending on the size of the bomb, but I mean it's just so massive. I mean you can't even. I mean, the two characters that we saw on the previous page, they're there in the foreground. You can see them in a little glow there, and they're just minuscule with compared to the scale of the crater. So Again, another great framing sequence on the next page. Now we're flashing back in time. We actually see Tarek Geiger there in the bottom, and superimposed over that, all those words that are redacted. They're basically news reports, and they're basically saying that nuclear war has started.
It's coming.
Yeah,
the wars that have been. The tension has now reached its max point, and we are getting in trouble. This is the cool part. This is one of my favorite sequences in this whole story. I think, go on. This is just so cool. I mean, it sets up this whole, I think, awesome franchise, this whole awesome series.
Yeah, that panel on the bottom, emergency broadcast with the E, which, if you've lived in the United States any period of time, you definitely know that sound.
Yeah.
So we're told we're in Boulder City, Nevada. Here's Tarek Geiger and his family. And it seems that they have a bomb shelter, which, again, this is, alternate history, everybody. This is probably like late 90s, early 2000s. In our world, the Cold War had passed. And obviously in their world, that wasn't the case, and things have escalated to the point where bombs could start falling at any minute. So they want to get to their bomb shelter. And as they're about to head in, their dog starts barking, and Tarek's son is like, hey, what's he barking at? What's going on? And we see maybe one of the most terrifying images in the book here. The missiles have been launched. Now, a couple pages ago when we were seeing all those news reports, one of them did say the President of the United States declared that he would not fire the missiles unless fired upon. So if our missiles are flying, it means missiles are flying towards us. So
that picture is it's a great page.
Yeah, I mean, think about the pacing or whatever, and it's nothing overt, but in a way, it's super terrifying. Especially if you're my age. Cody's quite a bit younger than me, so he didn't live through the Cold War. But I remember laying awake at night, being worried that the bombs were going to fall. So yeah, at that point, Tarek and his family know that bad times are coming. Basically, World War III has started, and he runs back to grab the dog while the rest of the friends. The rest of his family head into the bomb shelter, and as he's grabbing the dog and running back, he gets shot in the leg. It seems like neighbors, and I'm of two minds. Like, everybody wants to survive, but dude, you could have asked, hey, is there room in the shelter? He could have said no, he could have not. But you don't even give him a chance. You're just going to shoot him in the leg, like survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
And we'll see more. Again, I don't want to spoil because Cody hasn't had a chance to read it. Maybe you haven't either. But we come back to this scene. We come back to give a little more context with the neighbors and the way they view Tarek and what happened.
That's the amazing writing of this Jeff Johns, is that he's weaving in these characters that are going to. I get the sense that each of these characters are significant, even though they seem so like they're just filling in space to tell us the bigger picture of what's happening. But of course, there's something bigger to them. And this sequence here too, when he's going up. To me, there's a commotion up there, and this guy is clearly showing us that he is prepared. He's ready to take care of his family. He's ready to survive, but he's still a person. He's still a human, and he hears something. He hears his dog barking about something. He goes up there, and now he's confronted with the first thing that kind of comes, the problem that comes with. Morality and survival kind of coming head to head is that what people do for it, and it's just a really cool setup for, I think, themes that are going to collide more and more throughout the story.
Yeah, and kind of on that note of how prepared he is and how much he cares about his family, he realizes, hey, maybe there's enough room down there for these other two. Maybe there's not. We don't know how long this is going to last. It's a finite amount of food and water and everything that you have. So rather than take the chance of something happening, he tells his family, close the door, lock it, don't let anybody in, do it now. Obviously, his wife's like, no, I can't. He's like, yeah, he's willing to sacrifice himself for his family. He wants them to be safe. And credit to his wife. She not that I'm saying women should follow directions or whatever, but I think she also realizes, love of the children, we got to make sure they survive. And she does do what her husband tells her to do, even though it has to be heartbreaking for her to know that, hey, the bombs are coming, they have this shelter, he's going to be stuck outside while the rest of them are safe inside the bunker.
yeah, the emotions certainly hit the mark for me as I was reading it. I was like, those last few images of that coming to an end is pretty tragic. Sets
Yeah.
up the tragedy. I mean, that's
Yeah. I
those are
mean, oh
that's
my
like
God.
that's so much tragedy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's a worldly tragedy, and that's an individual tragedy happening at once.
Yeah. And we're barely scratching the surface of that. So, yeah, the neighbors are like, they closed it. The dog won't shut up. And you can see the woman, obviously, she's scared too. She's clearly not used to using a firearm the way she fires it there. She
Yeah.
shoots the dog, which is just awful. Like, if you shoot a dog, you don't deserve to survive the apocalypse. I'm sorry.
No.
And, the guy's like, tell him to open the door. Tarek's like, you don't do it. You die. And yeah, maybe the most important line of this entire book, even as it goes on to other volumes or whatever. Tarek says, I'll do anything to protect my family. And this guy's like, okay, he's going to shoot. Like, I'm not sure what this guy's end game is. I mean, again, he's panicked. He's scared. He wants to get into the bunker, but it's like, I don't think this guy's willing to die. He just told his family to lock him outside when the bombs are coming. So I don't know. You're threatening him with something that he's already kind of accepted. You're threatening to kill him. He's already accepted his own death. I don't know.
Yeah.
Might want to try something else. But again, I'm not sure what other options he has, but I would hope that if I were faced with the end of my life, that I would act with a little more dignity and integrity than this piece of crap. But,
yeah, certainly. But it feels like one thing that I do like about the sequence is that when something hits the fan like this, there's always more context to the story, and that's something to keep in mind. You don't ever think about it when the guy cuts you off in the street, that maybe it's a pregnant woman trying to go to the hospital. I don't know. So there's always some sort of something, but it just, he's a dick. He's a complete dick. He doesn't even, there's no community. There's no essence of, there's no essence of trying to pass on anything good about humanity in that moment, or anything worth surviving. No honor.
Yeah. I'm going to take the page down for a moment, because I want you all to see this page without me scrolling to it. So it's just kind of show up. Look at that. Look at that. The bomb has fallen, and I love the reflection in his glasses of their mushroom cloud. I love the color work here by Brad Anderson, and it's a silent page, right? Which again is kind of it's a trope we've seen before. I mean, when the bomb actually hits and explodes, it's actually super loud, big explosion. But I love how quiet it is.
Yeah, not cinematically. It's not cinematic. It's quiet. It needs to be quiet. Yeah. It's perfect. I love it.
Yeah, definitely a holy shit moment in the book. So you see the two neighbors, perhaps you could say they get what they deserve as they're literally disintegrated. And you see Tarek's hands there as he looks like he's being destroyed as well. And then we fade to black in that last panel. And then we're told we're jumping 20 years later. So, clearly nobody survived. I mean, that's what you would assume. And so we have these, I guess what we would call scavengers. We know that they're in Boulder City. They're talking about the rumors of the monster of Boulder City. So it kind of reflects what we saw in those first couple pages. And this place isn't safe. Monster of Boulder City, blah, blah, blah. But again, they're out there just scrounging. They've got radiation suits on. Clearly they're survivors of the war, I guess you would say, or the bombs falling. But you got to imagine resources are scarce. So they're out there just scrounging around to survive.
Yeah. I don't know if they're related to the first group, or I guess the narration at the beginning, I don't know where that exactly takes place, but it seems just to be introducing a new group of people. Oh, the next image coming up is so cool.
Yeah, so they actually they come upon a shelter. They look in, they're like, it's empty. But, we found something else, and we see that there's the bomb shelter. There's the bomb shelter that Tarek's family, found, or not found, but went into, and these guys have found it. But you can see that Tarek has been hard at work over these 20 years, or somebody has, because you see, like, the little building blocks here, they're all like smashed cars, like cars that have been put in a compactor and smashed into a cube and built up around the bunker that was originally there for his family, as sort of extra protection, I guess you'd see. I mean, it's a very imposing scene to come upon if you're these guys. And of course they they're taken aback by it. What is this? Like, what? Nobody's ever seen anything like this. And they mentioned something called organ people. Like, what if they're organ people? And they're like, nah, it can't be organ people. They're not disorganized. Okay, well, what's inside? This guy's like, well, hopefully whatever it is, it'll be enough to pay the king's taxes. So clearly there's some sort of king that they have to pay tribute to now. And then we see a guy show up. He says, you're trespassing. And they're like, wait, this guy doesn't have a suit on, right? So right away we're like, how do you survive? And clearly he looks healthy. He looks muscular. He's not like mutated. He's not cancerous growths all over him or whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty.
And he says, yeah, I've had, scavengers like you come around before, trying to get past my property line. Doesn't end well for them. So I'm going to ask you to get out. Yeah, he has a great line.
You wanted us to get out. You should have put up a sign. I like that line. Well, if you didn't want us to come in, you should have put up a sign.
Like, you know what? If you don't get off my land, you're going to end up under it. That's how I got all these cars. So that's a great...
Well, yeah, and I guess the whole landscape, because I'm imagining there was like a town there full of houses and cars. It looks like all the resources have been packed in to, like, I don't know, that's pretty interesting. I'm curious to see.
Yeah, I mean, that was their town. That was, that shelter was in his backyard, so clearly... But, 20 years, who knows how close a bomb actually fell to them. I mean, close enough that it was reflected in Tarek's glasses. But, yeah, as you said, they're like, these guys are surprised. Who's this guy? It's a glowing man. It's like, how could he be the glowing man? He's not actually glowing. Didn't want us here. He should have put up a sign, like you said. And I love Tarek's response. Like, you want me to put up a sign? What would it say? Keep out or you'll lose your teeth? And he kicks the guy.
Yeah.
Probably not easy to get dental care this time, in this world either. So, yeah, a bit of a little fight here. Tarek clearly has him outclassed. And that's the other thing you think about here. Like, people that can't even go outside without some sort of protection. Again, resources are scarce. You imagine food is scarce. I mean, wouldn't think anybody's really in that good a health, except maybe for Tarek Geiger, because he doesn't have to worry about radiation, affecting him or whatever. Even, I mean, it doesn't matter how effective your suit is. There's always going to be some, background radiation, like that sort of thing. Like, just seems like this world is not a world that engenders health and longevity.
No, as you can see with the two-headed dog, in some of these scenes. I don't know if I'm looking at a page right now where there's the two-headed dog. Maybe we haven't gotten there yet. It's on the screen right here. Definitely a weird world. And I just think it's a weird character still thing to have all these stacks of cars right there. It just seems like he must be bored, or he's just like, those are all got to be valuable resources still, just having scrap metal at some point that's got to be useful. I mean, it just seems like an oddly, it's such an interesting character choice to have him do. I
sort of feel like he can't like actively see his family or communicate with them. So like, what can I keep doing to feel like I'm protecting them? I just keep building up the barrier around. The outside world is a dangerous place. I'm just going to keep building up the barrier between them and the outside
like a pyramid
world.
Until there's like a pyramid over it. It's just
I mean, I can't imagine why other than, hey, it's a really cool image. So after he pretty much knocks these guys on the ground, he says, okay, I'll put up a sign in neon, and he pulls out these two rods that he has that stick in his back, and we get another just absolutely fantastic image here. And he's telling him, no trespassing. You can see he clearly is radioactive. You can see his skull glowing through his skin. Notice his boots where they're touching the ground. They're burning through the ground. You can see like smoke coming up. It just, I mean, fantastic
Excellent.
Image. Also notice on his kind of his abdomen area there, the way the armor is built, how it makes a symbol for radiation, which is really awesome.
Yeah.
And I got to call out Brad Anderson again for this color work. I mean, this is a static, two-dimensional image, either on your screen if you're digital like I am, or on your comic book. and it literally looks like it's glowing. Like, what a fantastic job with the colors. Just amazing. So clearly at this point they realize who they are facing. It is the glowing man, it is the, man of mass destruction, whatever. And all he says is boo, and they go running off, and you can see that he sticks the rods back into his back. I don't want to say he turns back human, but he stops glowing. And he says, have a nice day. And they ran off without their supply, so they were pulling around some explosives in case they found some resources they couldn't get to and needed to use the explosives to free them. So now he's got explosives. There's the two-headed dog that you mentioned. And he's like, yeah, they ran away. Better for us, better for them. We've already buried too many people out there. And he's talking to the two-headed dog, talking about having some dinner. So we get a little bit of...
And a book to read.
A little bit of, I guess we'll say, characterization or humanization of Geiger here, despite the fact that he is, clearly been mutated by this blast or what have you. Clearly he loves books. He's got a ton of them on the bookshelf. He's like, I got to read Moby Dick again. I'm bored of them all too. What I wouldn't give for a new book, but nobody's writing any new ones anymore. And you do want, so everything above ground was destroyed. So this house that he's in here, I'm assuming it's a house that he built after. But it looks...
Maybe it's that they kind of showed some doors, or like I kept mistaking his shelter and there's a couple images of what looked like multiple different shelters potentially, or maybe this is a whole other spot that they haven't shown. There's windows. I do see windows, so it could be a house somewhere.
Maybe a brick house, what have you, or stone, so it wasn't blown away. But what I'm struck by on this next page, very powerful, the fact there's no dialogue. He doesn't, again, not only does he not have any new books to read, he doesn't really have anybody to talk to. He can talk to the dog, but the dog can't talk back. And like I was saying, with limited resources, all he's got to eat is beans, canned food. He's got a stack of them, you see there in the first panel. And kind of to really bring the isolation home. And although he's not behind bars, in a way he's in prison, right? He's stuck there. He can't leave. He wants to protect his family, and he's just counting the days and keeping track of the days. Very, very, very prisoner thing to do.
That also could be the boxes that are on top of the shelter. It could be a day. Each day could be a different, just a way to keep track of time, to make things pass it's where he's still doing something. Yeah, but it's stultifying activity. It's not really passionate activity.
More than anything, that panel just brings it sells the idea of how alone he is and the despair he must feel, which is kind of continued on the next page, which again shows his dedication. He's like, I know you can't hear me, but I'm here until it's safe to open the door. We can be a family again. Clearly he really misses his family. He thought he was giving his life for them. Turned out he survived, but at what cost? Like, is it worth surviving if you're going to be like all by yourself and you can't actually see your family? So it's pretty tough. So meanwhile, we get a chance to meet the king. He's asking one of his knights, who is this guy? And he's talking about, it's in Boulder City. He's some sort of radioactive man. Three of our scavengers we sent out encountered him. He's walking outside without a suit. And the king is like, okay. And clearly you can tell the king, first of all, he's very young, and he's more worried about the painting that's being done for him, the portrait that's being done. Yeah,
he's more worried about narrating his story as he wants it to be, rather than what's actually happening.
Which you can kind of understand if he was born in the after times. He was very young when the bombs fell. He's immature. He didn't exactly grow up in a good environment, but you can really tell just through this conversation how petty he is. And he's like, all right, he's not happy with the painting. It's all wrong. Start over. And he tells this guy that he wants his nuclear knights to go out and find this myth of a man, and the king's going to go with him. And to his credit, his soldiers like, you can't go with him. Come with us. It's too dangerous. You need to stay here. And of course, this guy, spoiled brat of a king, is like, you can't tell me what to do. You serve me. Don't question me. Guy's just not all there in a lot of ways. Again, the kind of the inexperience of youth, coupled with, again, a world he's grown up in where he's had everything handed to him on a silver platter, like completely spoiled. Wouldn't know, good advice if it bit him in the ass. So
everything's based off of a belief with this guy and himself, and he doesn't actually know any true facts about himself, and that's that he's a tiny little dude. He's a king. Is when you're told you're a king, you feel probably bigger than you are. I'd imagine so.
Well, yeah. From the context you get, it seems like he talks about his father. He's like, I'm my father's son no more. But it sounded like his father. First of all, the fact that his father was able to consolidate power and become, quote unquote, a ruler in the aftermath of the world, whether he did it through, treating people the right way and getting people to follow him in some kind of natural way, or he did it as just that he had power and he's able to exercise that and consolidate power. Regardless, his father was more capable. This guy's not, and you get the sense that he somehow betrayed his father and took over before he really was probably ready.
Sure.
Before his father could really teach him things. And for him, it's all about glory. He says that.
He does. He screams it out the window, I think.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to bring back the glowing man's head. I'm going to prove I'm more powerful than my father. It's my chance for vindication. It's my chance for glory. So, on some level, this guy knows that he's not really anything, And it's not only does he want to prove himself to the people around him, in some ways, he's trying to prove himself to himself that he really deserves to be the king, and we find out that he's the king of Las Vegas, if you will. So we can see Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas, and he's the casino that's at the end lot. It looks like King Arthur's castle, but there's plenty of other casinos on either side, and it looks like maybe Vegas is one of the few places that survived. You can see connecting these casinos are tunnels. Like of glass or what have you to protect everybody from the outside
atmosphere.
Next month's The King and I. That's the first issue. So I can recall reading it and really enjoying it. An impactful way to introduce Geiger and what's happened. But I also remember thinking, I sort of have more questions than answers at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, that's exactly how I feel right now. And I guess the way you just kind of even put that out there made me see this king in a different light. He's sitting there and he's, being critical over the painting of the narrative he seems to be trying to construct, but at the same time, he's taking the courage to be like, you know what, screw this. I'm going to go get my glory. I'm going to go out there and do it. There's something admirable about that, no matter how, ill-advised it might be. There's still something kind of admirable about it that makes him feel, I don't know. It makes me kind of enjoy the character. But with this guy, he's turning green. He's Geiger. He's turning green. He's glowing. He blew up. Was it his pure love for the fact that he did the right thing at the right time, along with a nuclear explosion of this? The radiation, the image of the radiation is all over this book. It's so many symbols everywhere that it gets me super excited. It gets me pumped. I like it a lot. And
there's a little bit of back matter as well. Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas. And we have a map here. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it on the double page spread. But it basically shows all the different casinos. So we've got Nero, who rules Nero's. We're told he's on the outs. And then we've got the Frontier, which is interesting because it says Safari Bill, but Bill's crossed out and it says Bob. We've got Bonnie Borden at the Manhattan. We've got the King, who we just saw at the Camelot, and it says the Prince is king. What happened to the old king? Where's the Queen? So little hints of things to be explored in further issues. We're also told that the one with the star and the little like Saturn-like planet on the top is called the Milky Way, which is the craziest of all. Next to that is Goldbeard, which is pirate themed, and we're saying it's this Goldbeard the third or the fourth. And then there's the Karloff, which is one of the biggest ones, and it says it's like no place else. And they have an alliance with the Oregon people, which can't be good. Like at this point we don't know what the Oregon people are, but just that name, Oregon people,
It gives you
yeah,
a feeling that isn't good.
yeah, that is not
innately cringy.
Yeah, that is not good. What do they eat organs? Do they harvest organs? Anyway,
Wear them.
Yeah.
What?
Anyway, you slice it, going to be bad. And then we get a little teaser page next up in Geiger. Revealed the decadent world of Las Vegas crime lords. So apparently these, not only the heads of casinos, are crime lords. The desperate lives of those who survived the apocalypse, which I kind of alluded to. If you're still alive in this world, yeah, things aren't exactly good. You're probably constantly scrounging for survival. And then what passes for a chew toy in the nuclear wasteland, and we see this is really interesting here. We see the two-headed dog there, and he's got some sort of creature in his mouth, but so interesting, like a regular dog, wolf, whatever, goes to attack something, will grab it with his teeth and like shake it or whatever.
They rip it.
They can rip stuff apart because each head can grab either end of whatever. Looks like some sort of spider insect here and rip it in two. That's really
twice the amount of rippage.
Happening. Really cool. And we get a little teaser for the cover for issue number 2 as well. So really great first issue. And then the last thing that I'll show here is this Junkyard Joe comic. Who is another character in Ghost Machine in the Unnamed.
You see it laying on one of the frames in this first issue. There's a Junkyard Joe book just sitting in scene.
And there's a lot more to come from Junkyard Joe. And if you're looking at this going, well, wait, is Junkyard Joe a character? Is he an android? Is he a robot? Is he just a cartoon character in the Sunday Funnies? Not going to spoil. You'll have to wait and see. But it'll all be explained eventually. So so that's the first issue. Again, I thought it was absolutely fantastic when it came out. I was highly anticipating this. I mean, at the time it was announced, it was Jeff Johns and Gary Frank, and they had basically said they weren't going to do any work at DC anymore, although they still had some work to finish up at DC. And this was going to be their focus, which was exciting. And then the quality of the book, the quality of the first volume of Geiger was really great, and it sort of, I think, showed their dedication to it and that they could still be at the top of their game. But I think even they, and I'm just speculating here, again, something I would ask Jeff about, I think even they were surprised at the reception of it, because quickly after Volume 1, then the whole transition to Ghost Machine happened. It was announced all these other creators were coming on. They were going to be doing their own thing. And I think that had to do with how well it did and how people showed up. And just the economics, right? Like, hey, you can tell your own stories that you own, so you get a bigger piece of the pie. And if it ever goes on into any other mediums, movie, television, video games, cartoons, audio dramas, whatever, again, you're getting that money. That money's not going to Warner Brothers or Disney or whomever. So kind of a way to invest in yourself. I'd be curious to ask Jeff, like, was this a way to invest in yourself? Did you realize what a following you had? People really because people were talking about this, and rightfully so. Although we don't get a huge chunk of story, I feel like in terms of, okay, who is Geiger and, who are these Vegas crime lords and whatever, like, again, there's a lot of questions.
Early lore.
Yeah,
pieces.
it's world building, and you almost got a snapshot of like a couple different eras, right? Before the bombs fell, 20 years later, establishing what's going on and interesting characters. This wasn't what I expected. Like when I heard about it, it's Geiger. You get this sense of some, we saw images. Okay, this guy's got radioactive powers. Yeah. But I didn't expect it to be. I thought it would be a little more focused on him, like right from the start. But right from the beginning, we're being introduced to a lot of other characters, and it makes it feel like a much bigger world. I mean, I was kind of expecting, okay, this guy survived a nuclear bomb, and he's out kind of wandering the wastelands alone, and that's not at all what this is.
Yeah, of course, that's what we expect when we see something like this, and then just like in his other work, Doomsday Clock or whatever, he just slips in he just makes these really cool, meaningful characters kind of slide right in the narrative, and you don't even know they were a part of it until, I don't know, you've completely fallen in love with them, and hopefully nothing tragic happens to them, or I don't know. He's genius. He's really smart.
Yeah, and the other thing that, and this is a little bit hindsight, because obviously time has gone on and other Ghost Machine titles have come out, and I've had a chance to read them. Other things like Redcoat that he does with Brian Hitch, or Rook that he's co-writing with Jason Fabok, and Jason's idea originally. Jason's handling the art, and how different they're paced in terms of how much dialogue and how many words you get on the page. Like, go back to that page we were talking about before, where all the lines are on the wall, and we're talking about how lonely he is. There's no dialogue on that page. This book is, in terms of, if you just wanted to speed through it and only read the dialogue, or only read the script, you'd be done pretty quickly. You're going to miss out on a lot of visual storytelling that Gary Frank gives you, because he's a fantastic visual storyteller.
I don't know how many marks are on that wall, but that's a lot of days worth of. Yeah, it's a lot of days worth of time in that one shot.
But it goes back to my point of, it's almost like, Jeff, he's been doing this long enough and he's really good at it. He's going to write a comic and write a script to the strengths of the writer. And when you have a strengths of the artist, rather, and when you have an artist as good as Gary Frank, you don't need extra dialogue. You don't need exposition boxes. You don't need anything else on that page other than what Gary gave us visually to, convey that sense of, this poor guy's all alone. He's got nobody. He misses his family. Yeah, you can talk to the two-headed dog, but you can't have a conversation. It's not like the dog is going to be talking back to you. So again, like, if you compare it to again, later books that come out through Ghost Machine, like I want to say that Redcoat is probably the one that has the most the most dialogue. But even if you talk about Rook, because again, you don't really want to be covering up Jason Fabok's art either, right? I mean, he's fantastic as well.
He's another fantastic artist.
But yeah, he's smart enough to get out of the way.
Yeah. It's a generous scene partner in some ways. If you're looking at, that's good art when you leave space for your partner to tee it off well, and he communicates the story as well as Jeff Johns writes it. I think they're both super hyper aware of that. I'd love to hear about the process a little bit. How do they?
Yeah, I mean, we break this page down, so stacks of beans. That's all the guy gets to eat. He's opening up the can and just eating it. It's not even like he's worming. He takes care of the dog. Dog's got 2 bowls, one for each head. He's all alone, like that overhead shot where he's sitting at the table. There's chairs for other people, but he's all by himself. That lonely plate of beans. As he looks down on it, he's like, "Well, this is not what he wants. This is not what he wants to be eating, right? This is boring." And then the next panel, especially when he looks over at the chair next to him where his wife would be sitting, and it's empty. He looks down the length of the table where his family would be sitting, and it's empty. And he's like, but he's doing what he needs to do to survive, to make sure that his family survives. He picks up the fork, he starts eating, and look at how long he's been doing this. Every day it's probably the same thing. Open a can of beans, feed the dog, stare down at this crappy plate of cold beans that he's got to eat, counting the days until he sees his family again. That is the storytelling that's unfolding on this page, with no words. Not just no dialogue, not just no scripting. There's no exposition. There's nothing, because it's not needed. It's not needed. We get everything we need to know about how he's been going through the motions and misses his family. Like, everything is there from the art by Gary Frank. I mean, that is just fantastic storytelling. Can't ask for anything more than that. So
yeah,
just fabulous. So.
What changes? What It's just leaning me into the idea that something's got to jump in front of this hero.
Something's got to give, and we'll see what it is. So
yeah. All
right. Awesome. So that's gonna do it for this episode, everybody. Thanks for joining us as always, for breaking this down. Don't forget, if you're listening to us audio only, that's great. Oftentimes we're going to be describing what's on the page anyway, but if you want to see the art, head over to the YouTube channel. Just do a search for The Comic Source on YouTube. You'll find us. Once you're there, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe. Really appreciate that. Love to hear what you think about Ghost Machine. Conversely, if you are checking us out on YouTube, found us on YouTube, and you're wondering about the audio-only content, all the stuff comes out as audio-only on the podcast feed, so you can listen on the subway or in the car, or driving, whatever. And you can also go back for well over 2,000 previous episodes to hear interviews, convention coverage, reviews, and what have you. So just go to wherever you get your podcast, whatever app or platform you prefer, do a search for The Comic Source and subscribe. So that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. We will see you back here for issue number 2 of Geiger.